Somewhere near you, right now, there may be a cat asleep, curled on a windowsill perhaps, or folded into the warm hollow of a chair, one paw tucked beneath its chin, breathing slow. If you watch for long enough, the whiskers twitch, the ears rotate, just slightly, toward a sound you cannot hear, and then everything settles again, and the small animal returns to whatever quiet country it visits when it sleeps. It looks like the simplest thing in the world, a soft creature, resting. But the cat sleeping beside you is one of the oldest travelers on Earth. The shape of its body, the slit of its eye, the silence in its feet, the strange engine of its purr, none of that is new. All of it was carried here, down a road that runs back tens of millions of years, through deserts and grain fields and the holds of wooden ships, through temples and farmhouses and the long dark of prehistory. The cat did not simply appear on our sofas. It arrived, slowly, on its own terms. And that is the story we are going to follow tonight. Not as a lecture and not as a list, but as a journey. We will begin long before there were house cats, before there were even proper cats at all, in a world still recovering from the death of the dinosaurs. We will meet a small climbing hunter that gave rise to every lion and lynx and tabby that ever lived. We will watch a wary desert animal creep to the edge of the first human villages, drawn by mice and warmth, and slowly, across 100 small discoveries, we will arrive back here, at the sleeping cat and the quiet miracle of how it came to trust us at all. If you enjoy these long, calm journeys through science, consider subscribing to The Sleepy Scholar. It costs you nothing, it helps this channel grow, and it means the next slow story will find its way to you on some other night when sleep feels far away. So there is nothing for you to do now, nothing to remember, nothing to solve. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Let the pillow take the full weight of your head. We are going back to the very beginning of the cat, and you are welcome to fall asleep long before we reach the end. Let us begin. Part 1. Before there were cats. The deep past, where cats come from, and the long road that led to the small hunter asleep in your home. Fact 1. Everything begins with a sleeping animal and a road you cannot see. Look again at that cat dreaming somewhere in the house. It seems to belong entirely to the present moment, to this room, this warmth, this night. And yet almost nothing about it is recent. The retractable claws, sheathed and silent, the eyes built for hunting in near darkness, the instinct to bury what it cannot eat. These are not habits it learned from us. They are inheritances, handed down a chain of ancestors so long that the human mind struggles to hold it. To understand the companion on your bed, we have to travel back past history, past farming, past our own species entirely, to a time when the world had no cats in it at all. It is a little like tracing a river to its source, walking upstream until the wide, familiar water narrows to a single cold spring. Tonight, we are walking upstream, and the first thing to understand is simply how far back the spring lies. Fact 2. The first hunters appeared in the quiet after the dinosaurs. Around 60 million years ago, in the strange, emptied world that followed the extinction of the dinosaurs, a group of small mammals began to specialize in eating other animals. Scientists call them the carnivorans, and they are the ancestors of nearly every meat-eater we know today. In time, this group split down two great branches. One branch, the dog-like carnivores, would eventually lead to wolves and bears and weasels. The other, the cat-like carnivores, would lead to cats, and to their more distant cousins, the hyenas and mongooses. Picture a single family walking to a crossroads and parting ways, one group turning toward the life of the dog, the other toward the life of the cat, each disappearing down its own path for 50 million years. Our story follows only the second path, but even down that road there were no true cats yet, only the promise of them. So what did the very first cat actually look like? Fact 3. The oldest true cat was a creature called Proailurus. The earliest animals that scientists are willing to call actual cats belong to a genus named Proailurus, which means, rather beautifully, before the cat. It lived roughly 34 to 20 million years ago, and its fossils have been found in France, in Germany, and in China. It was not large. The best-known kind was somewhere around the size of a small wildcat or a large house cat, modest and low to the ground. If you could somehow see one moving through the ancient forest, you might not think ancestor, you might just think cat. Something in the shape of it, the balance of it, would feel quietly familiar. And that is the remarkable thing about Proailurus. The basic design of the cat was arrived at very early, and then, more or less, kept. But there was one detail about this first cat that shaped everything that followed. Fact 4. That first cat almost certainly lived in the trees. From the structure of its feet and ankles, researchers believe Proailurus was at least partly arboreal, a climber, as at home in the branches as on the ground. And this makes a deep kind of sense. A small hunter in a world full of larger predators is safest up high, where few things can follow. It is easy to imagine it there, folded along a limb in the dappled light, watching the forest floor with the patience that cats have never lost. Much of what we still love in cats, the climbing, the perching, the fondness for high shelves and the tops of wardrobes, may be an echo of these tree-dwelling beginnings. Your cat, seeking the highest point in the room, is not being difficult, it is being ancient. From this single climbing ancestor, though, the family was about to explode into something far stranger and grander. Fact 5. From one root, the cat family branched into a great fan of forms. Around 20 million years ago, the descendants of these early cats entered a period of dramatic diversification, spreading and splitting into many new kinds. Scientists group much of this messy, creative middle chapter under a cluster of cats, often referred to as the Pseudailurus complex, a sort of evolutionary crossroads from which almost all later cats would emerge. Think of it less as a single species and more as a broad trunk, thickening before the tree divides into its major limbs. Some of those limbs would grow into the great roaring cats, some would shrink into the small ones, and one branch, now long gone, would grow the most fearsome teeth the cat family has ever produced. That branch is worth pausing on, because for a long time it ruled. Fact 6. One branch became the saber-toothed cats. From that same ancient crossroads came the Machairodonts, the saber-toothed cats, with their long, curved, dagger-like upper canines. They were not the ancestors of house cats. They were more like a magnificent parallel experiment, a different answer to the question of how to be a cat. Some grew as large as lions, and they specialized in bringing down big, slow, heavy prey. For millions of years, across Africa, Eurasia, and the Americas, these were among the dominant predators on land. And yet, tonight, there is no saber-tooth asleep on anyone's bed. The most famous of them, the great Smilodon, vanished only around 10 to 12,000 years ago. As the last ice age released its grip, the giants faded, but quietly, in their shadow, the small cats were surviving in a very different way. Fact 7. While the giants ruled, the ancestors of house cats stayed small and stayed patient. Here is one of the gentle ironies of cat evolution. For much of the time, the saber-tooths dominated the landscape. The direct ancestors of our domestic cats remained modest, small-bodied hunters of small prey, keeping to the edges. They did not compete with the giants for enormous kills. They took the mice, the birds, the low and overlooked things, and when the age of giant predators finally ended, when the great saber-tooths and many other huge Ice Age animals disappeared, it was not the mighty that inherited the future. It was the small, the flexible, the quiet. There is something almost restful in that thought. As you lie here in the dark, the world was not, in the end, won by the largest teeth. It was won, in part, by a creature content to be small, and that small creature belonged to a family with 8 distinct branches. Fact 8. All the cats alive today belong to just 8 lineages. When scientists study the genes of living cats, from tigers to tabbies, they find that every one of them falls into one of about 8 great lineages, 8 surviving limbs of that ancient tree. The very first to split away, more than 10 million years ago, was the lineage of the big roaring cats, the Panthera group, the lions and tigers and leopards and jaguars. One by one, over the following millions of years, the other branches divided off. The bay cats of Southeast Asia, the caracals of Africa, the ocelots of the Americas, the lynxes, the pumas. Each a different way of being a cat, and the branch that leads to the animal in your home was not among the first to appear. It was, in fact, almost the last. Fact 9. The house cat's own branch, the Felis lineage, is one of the youngest of all. The lineage that includes the domestic cat, known as the Felis lineage, is thought to have split away only around 3 to 3.5 million years ago, making it one of the most recent branches on the whole family tree. These are mostly the smaller cats, generally under about 10 kilograms. Some of their ancestors had wandered from Asia into North America and back again across ancient land bridges, and from Asia they spread onward into Europe and deep into Africa, settling into deserts and grasslands and scrub. In the long calendar of cat evolution, your cat's particular kind is not an elder. It is something closer to a late arrival, a young and adaptable newcomer, still carrying the memory of every branch that came before. And one of the oldest of those memories is written, quite literally, on its coat. Fact 10. The pattern on a cat is older than the cat itself. When researchers modeled how the coats of cats have changed over deep time, they concluded that nearly all of the family's beautiful patterns, the rosettes, the stripes, the blotches, most likely evolved from a single starting point, small spots. Spots softening and stretching and merging across millions of years into everything from a leopard's rosettes to the faint mackerel stripes on an ordinary tabby's side. So when you run your hand along a sleeping cat and feel, beneath your palm, those soft markings rising and falling with its breath, you are touching one of the oldest decorations in the mammal world, a pattern far older than farms, older than humans, older than the house that holds you both tonight. And yet, for all this deep and ancient history, the cat was still, at this point in the story, entirely wild. It had not yet met us. It had no reason to trust a human, no reason to come near a fire or a doorway. To understand how that changed, we have to leave the deep forests and the vanished giants behind and follow one particular small cat out into the dry, golden light of the desert. Part 2. The Ghost in the Desert, 1v. The wild ancestor, the small, solitary desert cat that was the house cat in every way but one. It had not yet met us. Fact 11. The ancestor of every house cat is still alive and still living wild. Follow that young branch of small cats out of the forests and into the dry country of North Africa and the Near East, and you arrive at a living animal, the African wildcat, known to scientists as Felis libica. It is not a fossil. It is out there tonight, hunting under the same moon, in the scrublands and desert edges where it has lived for hundreds of thousands of years. And here is the quiet astonishment of it. Genetic studies show that this wildcat is the direct ancestor of every domestic cat on Earth, from the grandest show breed to the stray by the roadside. Not a close cousin, the source. When you look at the cat asleep in your home, you are looking at a desert animal that agreed, long ago, to come indoors. But if you saw its wild ancestor in the flesh, the first thing that would strike you is how little has changed. Fact 12. You could mistake the wild ancestor for an ordinary tabby. If an African wildcat wandered across your garden at dusk, you might simply think a neighbor's cat had gotten loose. It is a slender, sandy brown animal with soft mackerel stripes, a little longer in the leg than most house cats, but unmistakably a cat. This resemblance is not a coincidence. It is one of the most important clues in the whole story. Unlike dogs, which we reshaped into 1,000 forms, from the wolf, cats were changed so gently by domestication that the wild original and the tame descendant remain nearly identical. The body was, in a sense, already finished. We did not need to redesign the cat. We only needed to befriend it. And yet the life this wild cat led was almost the opposite of the cozy one your cat enjoys tonight, beginning with where it made its home. Fact 13. It is, at heart, a desert animal. The African wildcat is built for dry, open country, the deserts, scrublands, and grassy margins of Africa and the Near East. Its sandy coat is camouflage against pale earth. Its body copes well with heat and scarcity, with long waits between meals and longer waits between rains. Much of what can seem faintly mysterious about house cats makes more sense once you remember this desert inheritance. Their love of warm patches of sun, their ability to concentrate their urine and get by on relatively little water, a legacy of ancestors who could not count on finding a puddle. The cat curled in the warmest corner of your home is, in a small way, still keeping the desert's rules. But the desert also shaped something deeper than the body. It shaped the wildcat's entire way of being alone. Fact 14. The wild ancestor lives, and prefers to live, entirely alone. Here is perhaps the greatest difference between the wildcat and the pet. The African wildcat is solitary and strongly territorial. Each adult holds its own patch of land and generally wants no company on it, meeting others mainly to mate, and otherwise keeping a careful distance. There are no wildcat villages, no packs, no families beyond a mother and her kittens. For a hunter of small, scattered prey, this makes sense. A single desert can only feed so many mouths, so each cat spreads out to claim enough ground to survive. This is worth holding in mind as our story goes on, because it makes what comes later almost miraculous. The animal we would eventually invite to share our homes, and to share them with other cats, and with dogs, and with children, began as a creature that wanted, above all, to be left alone. And an animal that lives alone has to solve a very particular problem. Fact 15. Living alone, it learned to speak in scent. When you rarely meet your own kind face to face, you cannot rely on gestures or calls to send a message. So the wildcat, like most solitary cats, came to communicate largely through scent, leaving marks that linger for hours or days after the sender has moved on. Sprayed urine, rubbed cheeks, scratched posts. These are notes left on the landscape, saying this ground is taken, or a female was here, read long after the writer has gone. It is a language designed for animals that are almost never in the same place at the same time, and your cat still speaks it. When it rubs its face along the corner of the sofa or against your ankle, it is not only showing affection, it is doing something far older, marking, mingling scents, writing you into its map of the world. That ancient solitude left another mark too, on the hours your cat chooses to come alive. Fact 16. It hunts in the soft light of dawn and dusk. The African wildcat is mainly crepuscular, most active in the twilight hours around sunrise and sunset, when the desert cools and small prey begin to stir. It is neither fully a creature of the day nor fully a creature of the night, but of the thresholds between them. This too has come down almost unchanged. If you have ever been woken at first light by a cat suddenly seized with wild energy, tearing through the house for no reason you can see, you have met the desert ancestor face to face. Those dawn and dusk zoomies are not mischief. They are the switching on of an ancient hunting clock, tuned across 1,000,000 years to the exact hours when the desert offered its best chances. Your cat is simply keeping an appointment far older than your alarm. But of all the wild cats scattered across the old world, why did this one, and only this one, ever come to us? Fact 17. Not every wildcat could have become a pet. This is one of the most revealing facts in the whole story. There are several kinds of wildcat across Europe, Africa, and Asia, and they are not all alike in temperament. The European wildcat, a separate branch, is famously untamable. Studies suggest that even when raised by hand from kittenhood, it tends to remain aggressive, wary, and fiercely resistant to human company. The African wildcat, by contrast, appears to have carried, in at least some individuals, a rare and precious trait, a tolerance for being near people. The difference seems to be written partly in the genes, not just in upbringing, and so the door to domestication was only ever open a crack, and only for one kind of cat. Had the African wildcat been as unyielding as its European cousin, there might be no house cats at all. We were lucky in our ancestor, and that ancestor happened to be exceptionally good at one particular job. Fact 18. It was already a master mouse hunter before we ever met. Long before there were farms or granaries, the African wildcat had been perfecting the hunting of small rodents, mice, rats, and similar prey. Its narrowly spaced killing teeth, its patient stalk, its explosive pounce, all of it was tuned, over ages, to the size and speed of a mouse. And this is the quiet hinge on which the entire story turns. The cat did not have to be trained to catch mice for us. It arrived already expert, carrying a skill it had honed for its own survival, a skill that would, one day, happen to be exactly what a farmer with a full granary most needed. Two futures, the cat's and ours, were being shaped toward each other long before either side knew the other existed. But among all its close desert relatives, it is still worth asking why this particular wildcat became the one. Fact 19. The wildcat comes in several regional forms, but one became the cat. Across the Old World, the wildcat exists as a set of closely related regional populations, a European form, a Southern African form, a Central Asian form, a Chinese desert form, and the Near Eastern and North African form, Felis libica. For a long time, scientists debated how to sort them, but the genetic verdict is now fairly clear. It was overwhelmingly the North African and Near Eastern libica that gave rise to the domestic cat, while the others largely stayed wild. Why libica? Likely some blend of temperament and, above all, geography, because this was the wildcat that happened to live exactly where humans were about to do something the world had never seen before. It was, you might gently say, the right cat in the right place. And unlike a fossil ancestor, this one never actually left the stage. Fact 20. The ghost never disappeared. It is still out there. Everything we have described, the desert coat, the solitude, the twilight hunt, still exists, in the flesh, tonight. The African wildcat lives on, and in some places, it lives close enough to domestic cats that the two still interbreed, their bloodlines quietly mingling at the edges of towns and farms. In parts of the world, this has become a genuine concern for conservationists, who worry that the truly wild wildcat could slowly dissolve into the vast sea of house cats, its ancient identity blurring away. So the ancestor is not a memory. It is a living animal walking the same earth as the cat on your bed, the wild original and the tame descendant, separated by 10,000 years and a pane of glass. And 10,000 years ago, out at the edge of that wildcat's desert, something appeared that had never existed before, something that would change the animal, and us, forever. It began, of all places, with grain. Part 3. The Village and the Grain. Doenta. The meeting. How the first farms and the mice they fed drew a solitary desert cat toward the edge of human life. Fact 21. Around 12,000 years ago, humans did something the world had never seen. In a broad arc of the Near East that scholars call the Fertile Crescent, people slowly stopped wandering and began to farm. They planted grain. They stayed in one place. They built the first true villages and, crucially, they began to store food, gathering more in one spot than had ever been gathered before. It is hard, lying here in the comfort of a settled world, to feel how strange and new this was. For hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors had carried everything and hoarded nothing. Now, for the first time, there were rooms full of grain, still and dry and waiting through the seasons. Humans had, without meaning to, created something that had never existed on Earth. A vast, reliable concentration of food, sitting in one place, all year round. And such a thing does not go unnoticed for long. Fact 22. The grain did not only feed people, it fed mice. A storeroom full of wheat is a paradise, not only for the farmer, but for the small and the quick. House mice and rats were drawn to these granaries in enormous numbers, breeding in the walls, feasting in the dark. In fact, scientists believe this is roughly the moment the house mouse as we know it truly came into its own, learning to live permanently alongside people, feeding on what they stored. The farmers had solved the ancient problem of hunger, and in doing so had created a brand new problem, a plague of small rodents eating the very food meant to carry a village through winter. It is easy to imagine the quiet frustration of it, the gnawed sacks, the spoiled stores. Into that frustration, drawn by the same swarming mice, a familiar shape began to appear at the edge of the firelight. Fact 23. The cats did not have to be fetched. They followed the mice. Out in the surrounding scrub, the African wildcat had spent ages perfecting the hunting of exactly these small rodents, and now, suddenly, the rodents had gathered themselves into one convenient, overflowing place. To a hungry wildcat, a village granary was not a frightening human structure. It was the richest hunting ground it had ever encountered. So, drawn not by people but by prey, the bolder wildcats began to slip closer, hunting the mice at the margins of human settlements. No one led them in, no one set a trap. The cats came on their own, following their stomachs, and found, to their surprise, that near these strange upright creatures, the living was easy. This simple arrangement, cat eats mouse, human keeps grain, has a name, and it is the real secret of how the cat was tamed. Fact 24. Cats took the commensal path. They domesticated themselves. Scientists describe the cat's journey with a special word, commensal, which comes from Latin roots meaning, roughly, sharing a table. Unlike almost every other domestic animal, the cat was very probably not captured, penned, and bred by people. Instead, it invited itself. The wildcats that happened to be a little bolder, a little more tolerant of humans, ate better and raised more kittens near the villages. Their calmer offspring stayed close, and over many generations, this gentle, unplanned selection nudged the population toward tameness, all without anyone intending it. As one researcher memorably put it, it is not that humans took some cats and put them in cages. People more or less allowed cats to domesticate themselves. The cat, in a very real sense, agreed to join us on its own terms and at its own pace, and so a curious three-way partnership quietly took shape. Fact 25. A quiet triangle formed: humans, mice, and cats. What emerged in those first farming villages was a kind of balance among three creatures, each shaping the lives of the others. Humans grew the grain, mice came for the grain, cats came for the mice, and in staying to hunt them, cats protected the grain, and so, without ever intending to, helped the humans. Scientists sometimes call this close living together of species a synanthropic relationship, and it is one of the oldest partnerships in the human story. Notice what is missing from it. Command. The farmer never ordered the cat to hunt. The cat simply did what it had always done, in a place where doing it happened to help everyone. There is something deeply restful in that idea, of a bond built not on obedience, but on a happy overlap of needs. And we can actually trace this partnership in the ground, on a small island where cats had no business being at all. Fact 26. Cats are not native to Cyprus, yet there they are. The Mediterranean island of Cyprus has no native wildcats. It is separated from the mainland by many kilometers of open sea, water no small desert cat could ever cross on its own. And yet archaeologists have found cat remains there dating back more than 10,000 years. There is only one possible explanation. Early people carried cats across the water, by boat, on purpose. Around the same time, the house mouse appears on the island too, likely an accidental stowaway in the grain, and it may be that people brought the cats precisely to deal with it. Think of that for a moment as you drift. 10,000 years ago, someone judged a small wild cat valuable enough, or companionable enough, to lift it into a wooden boat and carry it across the sea. The bond was already strong enough to cross water. But on that same island lies something even more tender. Fact 27. On Cyprus, a person and a cat were buried side by side. At a Neolithic village on Cyprus called Shilarokambos, archaeologists uncovered a grave around 9,500 years old. In it lay a human being. And just a short distance away, carefully placed in its own small pit at the same level, lay a cat, buried with apparent intention near offerings of polished stones and seashells. This single grave pushed back the story of our companionship with cats by thousands of years, for it is far older than the famous cats of Egypt. We cannot know exactly what this cat meant to the people who buried it, but the care taken, the closeness, the shared orientation of the two bodies strongly suggests that this was no mere pest catcher tossed aside. It is easy to imagine it was something closer to a companion, mourned, and the details of that little grave only deepen the feeling. Fact 28. The buried cat was young and laid to rest with strange tenderness. Analysis suggests the Cyprus cat was only about 8 months old when it died, young, but already near its adult size. It had been placed roughly 40 centimeters from the human, its body oriented in the same direction as theirs, its skeleton complete and unbutchered, meaning it was not food and not a skin. Everything about the burial speaks of deliberate placement, of meaning. We should be careful. Across such a gulf of time, we cannot read the hearts of the people who dug that grave, but it is hard not to picture a small household loss, a young cat that had become part of a life, laid gently to rest beside the person it had lived alongside. 9,500 years ago, someone may have grieved a cat, much as you might grieve one now, and this tells us something important about how domestication really happened. Fact 29. Taming a cat was a slow drift, not a single moment. We often imagine domestication as an event, a day when a wild thing became tame. But the cat shows us it was nothing so sudden. Archaeologists even use a softer word, taming, for these early stages, because for a very long time, the cats living beside humans were barely changed in body from their wild ancestors, indistinguishable in their bones. There was no clear line, no threshold crossed. There was only a gradual, generations-long drift, wildcats growing a little more tolerant, humans growing a little more welcoming, the distance between them slowly closing across thousands of years. The cat became our companion, the way dusk becomes night, so gently that no one could say exactly when it happened. And this unhurried, half-wild beginning would leave its mark on cats forever. Nor did this quiet drama play out in only one corner of the world. Fact 30. Far to the east, the same story was unfolding by a different river. Thousands of kilometers from the Fertile Crescent, in an early farming village in China called Chun, archaeologists have found cat bones dating to roughly 5,300 years ago, living right in the heart of a human settlement. The village grew millet, and the chemistry of the ancient bones tells a remarkable tale. The local rodents were eating the farmer's millet, and the cats were eating those rodents. Exactly the same grain mouse-cat triangle we saw in the Near East, repeating itself on the far side of a continent. One of those cats, intriguingly, seems to have eaten more millet-based food than a pure hunter should, hinting that it may have been scavenging human scraps or even fed by people directly. It is a small, quiet echo across the whole of Asia, the same partnership forming again and again wherever people stored grain. And yet, of all the places cats and humans came together, one land would take the cat and lift it higher than any other, into the company of the gods themselves, in a kingdom along the Nile. Part 4. Gods, Mummies, and Ships. 2000 Vies. The Rise. How Egypt lifted the cat toward the divine, and how the sea carried it to the ends of the world. Fact 31. In Egypt, the cat found its most devoted admirers. Along the Nile, in the land of Egypt, the relationship between human and cat deepened into something far warmer than pest control. Some of the earliest physical hints come from a site called Hierakonpolis, where archaeologists found the remains of a wild cat, dated to around 3,700 years before the Common Era, whose leg bones showed healed fractures. A cat with broken limbs cannot hunt, and cannot easily survive on its own. That its bones had healed strongly suggests that someone fed it and sheltered it through the weeks of its recovery, cared for it, in other words, the way you might care for an ailing pet today. It is one of the oldest physical traces we have of a human tending a cat, not for what it could catch, but simply to keep it alive. And nearby, the same site held something even more suggestive. Fact 32. A family of cats, buried together, hints at life in the home. At that same Egyptian site, excavators found a pit containing 6 cats buried together. An adult male, an adult female, and 4 kittens, apparently from 2 different litters. What makes this quietly telling is the timing of the kittens' births. Their ages suggest they were born outside the natural season in which wild Egyptian cats usually breed, a subtle sign that these animals may have been living in the sheltered, well-fed conditions that human company provides, where the old seasonal rhythms begin to loosen. It is circumstantial, and we should hold it lightly, but taken together, a cared-for cat with healed bones, a little family of cats laid to rest. It paints a picture of felines woven ever more closely into Egyptian domestic life. And from the household, the cat would rise higher still, all the way to heaven. Fact 33. Egypt gave the cat a goddess of its own. Few animals in history have been honored as the cat was in Egypt, where it became linked with the goddess Bastet. In her earliest forms, this deity was pictured with the head of a fierce lioness, but over the centuries she softened, and by around the first millennium before the Common Era, she was most often shown with the head of a domestic cat. Bastet was a protector associated with the home, with women, with children, with joy and fertility, the guardian of the hearth given feline form. Think of what that means. The same small animal that once crept in from the desert to hunt mice by the granary had, over thousands of years, been raised in human imagination into a shield against evil and a bringer of blessing. The cat had gone from tolerated hunter to household god, and such reverence came wrapped in strict and serious rules. Fact 34. To harm a cat in Egypt could cost a person dearly. So deeply were cats valued in ancient Egypt that harming one, even accidentally, was treated as a grave offense, and killing a cat could reportedly carry the harshest of penalties. Cats were mourned formally when they died. Ancient writers claimed that the members of a household might shave their eyebrows in grief at the loss of the family cat. Whether every such account is literally true, the overall picture is clear enough. The cat occupied a place in Egyptian life somewhere between beloved animal and sacred being, protected by custom and by law. It is a striking thought to carry into the dark that 4,000 years ago, the small creature now dozing at the foot of your bed was, in one great civilization, considered close to holy. Yet this same devotion had a strange and sorrowful side. Fact 35. Millions of cats were raised and sacrificed in the name of devotion. Here the story turns bittersweet, and it is worth telling gently. As the cult of the cat goddess grew, so did a vast religious industry. Worshippers would purchase a mummified cat to offer at her temples, the way one might light a candle, and to meet the enormous demand, dedicated breeding places, sometimes called catteries, raised cats in great numbers, specifically to be mummified as offerings. Millions of cat mummies were produced across the centuries. It is a sobering chapter. But some scientists, including the evolutionary biologist Gregor Larson, have wondered whether it left an unexpected mark on the cat itself. Keeping so many cats crowded together, generation after generation, may have quietly favored the calmest, most human-tolerant individuals, nudging the species further toward tameness. It is only one hypothesis, and not all researchers accept it, but it raises a haunting possibility that some of the cat's gentleness toward us was shaped in the temples. And Egypt guarded these precious animals jealously. Fact 36. Egypt tried to keep its cats, but cats will not stay put. The cat was so prized that Egypt is said to have restricted its export, attempting to keep these sacred animals within its own borders. But a valuable, portable, useful animal is almost impossible to contain, and ancient traders, Phoenicians, Greeks, and others seem to have carried cats out across the Mediterranean regardless, sometimes described, wonderfully, as cat thieves. Slowly, quietly, against the wishes of a kingdom, the cat began to slip out into the wider world. There is something very fitting in this. The animal that had joined humanity on its own terms, that domesticated itself rather than submitting to capture, could no more be locked inside one country than it could be ordered to hunt. It went where it wished, and for a long time, scientists thought they knew the route it took, though a recent discovery has upended that story in a remarkable way. Fact 37. For years, the accepted story told of two great waves. Until quite recently, the leading account, drawn largely from a landmark 2017 study of DNA passed down the maternal line, went like this. Cats spread in two waves, first out of the Near East alongside early farmers, and then, thousands of years later, a second wave carrying the Egyptian lineage outward across the ancient world. In this telling, cats rode along trade and shipping routes, and researchers even found genetic traces of Egyptian lineage cats as far north as a Viking trading port on the Baltic Sea, 1,000 years or more ago. It was an elegant picture, cats fanning out across the world in the wake of farmers, merchants, and seafarers, and much of it may still hold. But in late 2025, a large new study looked deeper into the cat's genome, and part of the old story began to wobble. Fact 38. A 2025 study suggests cats reached Europe far later than we thought. In November of 2025, researchers published an analysis of dozens of ancient cat genomes, and their conclusion was startling. Rather than arriving in Europe with the first Neolithic farmers many thousands of years ago, domestic cats, they argue, most likely spread into Europe only around 2,000 years ago, in the time of the Roman Empire, and probably came from North Africa. Some of these early travelers may well have been ship's cats, carried aboard vessels hauling grain across the Mediterranean, hunting the mice in the hold as they sailed. In this new picture, the cat followed Roman trade and even Roman military routes, reaching as far as Britain by around the 1st century of the Common Era. If this holds up, and science is always provisional, it means the house cat is a more recent arrival in Europe than almost anyone imagined. The animal on your lap may have come ashore, in a sense, with the legions, and this discovery corrected an old and honest mistake. Fact 39. Some ancient house cats turned out to be wildcats in disguise. How could the earlier story have been off by thousands of years? The answer is a beautiful lesson in how science refines itself. The older studies relied heavily on mitochondrial DNA, the genetic thread passed from mother to kitten, which tells only part of the tale. When the 2025 researchers read the fuller genome, they found that many European cats once assumed to be early domestic cats were in fact European wildcats, whose ancestors had simply interbred with African wildcats long before, leaving a misleading maternal signature. The deeper, fuller DNA told a truer story. The same study even found that the wildcats living on the island of Sardinia are not feral house cats gone wild, as one might guess, but descendants of a separate, ancient introduction of North African wildcats. The closer we look, the more subtle the cat's history becomes. But however exactly it traveled, one thing is certain: by sea, the cat conquered the world. Fact 40. In the end, the cat sailed everywhere. Whatever the precise timing, the sea was the cat's great highway. Cats were so useful aboard ship, guarding the food stores from rats, that in some periods it was reportedly expected, even required, for seagoing vessels to carry them. And so, clinging to the human tide of trade and exploration, the cat crossed every ocean. It reached the Americas and Australia in the age of sailing ships around 500 years ago, carried in the holds of European vessels to lands where no such cat had ever set paw. From a single kind of desert wildcat in one corner of the Near East and North Africa, the cat had become one of the most widespread animals on the planet, curled today on windowsills from Tokyo to Lima. It is an extraordinary journey for a creature that began by simply hunting mice near a granary. And yet none of it would have been possible without the astonishing machine of the cat's own body, the silent, supple, perfectly tuned instrument that now rises and falls with each sleeping breath. It is time to look closely at that body, and at how exquisitely it is built. Part 5. The Body That Fit the Work. B. Taine. The machine. How a small body came to be so exquisitely built that we scarcely had to change it at all. Fact 41. A cat carries hidden knives and keeps them sheathed. Begin with the paws of the cat asleep near you, so soft, so harmless looking. Within each one lies one of nature's most elegant tools, claws that retract. In a relaxed cat, the claws are drawn back and tucked away, hidden in the fur, touching nothing. Only when needed do they slide forward, for climbing, for gripping, for the hunt. And this is not merely tidy, it is deeply practical. By keeping the claws off the ground, the cat keeps them razor sharp, unworn, ready, the way you might keep a fine blade in its sheath rather than dragging it along the pavement. It also lets the cat walk in near total silence, its deadly equipment folded quietly away, so the animal, kneading gently at your blanket, is carrying, in each paw, a set of sheathed instruments perfected over millions of years, and the silence of the cat runs deeper still, all the way to its shoulders. Fact 42. The cat's collarbone floats free, and that is a gift. In your own body, the collarbone connects your shoulder firmly to the rest of your skeleton. In the cat, this bone, the clavicle, is greatly reduced and floats freely, buried in muscle, attached to nothing rigid. It sounds like a flaw. It is anything but. This free-floating shoulder is part of what lets a cat squeeze through any gap its head can fit through, its shoulders simply folding inward, and it allows the front legs an astonishing range of movement. It also means a cat can absorb the shock of a great leap through soft muscle, rather than snapping a rigid bone. It is the reason a cat can paw itself through a fence, or vanish into a space that looks impossibly small. The old saying that a cat is half liquid has a kernel of anatomy behind it, and that liquid quality flows down the length of the spine. Fact 43. The spine of a cat is a marvel of flexibility. Run your eyes along a stretching cat, and you are watching one of the most supple backbones in the animal world. A cat's spine has more vertebrae than a human's, connected by loose, elastic joints, letting the body arch, twist, coil, and extend far beyond anything we could manage. This is what powers the explosive spring onto prey, the mid-air twist, the ability to curl into a perfect sleeping circle or squeeze beneath a low couch. When a cat runs at full speed, it flexes and straightens that spine like a drawn bow, releasing again and again, adding length to every stride. The body you see resting so compactly tonight can unfold into something long and powerful in a heartbeat. It is a coil of stored motion, at rest. And at the front of that coil sits a specialist's weapon. Fact 44. The cat's jaw is a precision instrument for small prey. A cat's skull is unusual among mammals, with very large eye sockets and a short, powerful, highly specialized jaw. Its long canine teeth are spaced in a very particular way, set close together relative to the jaw, an adaptation, scientists believe, tuned to the small vertebrae of the rodents that have always been the cat's chief prey. Those teeth can slip precisely between the bones of a mouse's neck. It is a sobering intimacy, this perfect fit between hunter and hunted, but it is also a kind of quiet artistry, a tool shaped by its task down to the millimeter. The cat did not choose this design. It was carved by countless generations of catching exactly one kind of prey. And that single-minded devotion to meat runs deeper than the teeth, all the way into the cat's chemistry. Fact 45. The cat is a true carnivore, body and soul. The cat is what scientists call an obligate carnivore, meaning it does not merely prefer meat, it requires it, at a level almost no other common pet does. Over its long history as a hunter, the cat's body quietly let go of abilities it no longer needed. It carries fewer of the enzymes used to break down carbohydrates because its ancestors ate so few of them. Its whole metabolism is tuned to a diet of other animals. This is why a cat cannot truly thrive on the kind of varied menu a dog or a human can. It is not stubbornness when a cat turns from bread or vegetables. It is biology, written over ages of pouncing on small, warm prey. And this deep commitment to meat left the cat with some surprising and even dangerous gaps. Fact 46. A single missing nutrient can break a cat's heart, literally. Because it evolved to get everything from meat, the cat lost the ability to make certain nutrients its prey always provided. One is an amino acid called taurine. A cat's body cannot produce enough of it, so it must come from the diet, and without it, a cat can develop a serious weakening of the heart muscle. This was discovered in a striking way. Decades ago, many cats were falling ill with failing hearts until researchers traced it, in a 1987 finding, to a lack of taurine in commercial cat food. Once the taurine was added back, the problem largely disappeared. Another such nutrient, arginine, is so essential that a single meal without it can reportedly make a cat gravely ill. The cat's body is a masterpiece of specialization, but specialization has a price. It depends utterly on the diet its ancestors could always count on. And that same narrowing shaped even how a cat tastes the world. Fact 47. A cat cannot taste sweetness at all. Here is one of the most surprising facts about cats, and a genuine curiosity of evolution. Cats appear to be completely blind to sweetness. The gene that would build the sweet taste receptor is broken in cats. a small genetic deletion shared across the whole cat family, from lions to house cats. Where we taste sugar and delight, a cat tastes nothing at all. And this makes perfect sense for a pure meat eater. Fruit and sugar were never part of its diet, so the ability to enjoy them simply faded and was lost, an ancient mutation that could never reverse. So when your cat ignores the ice cream or the cake, it is not being polite or careful. It genuinely cannot taste the thing that so tempts us. Its tongue is tuned to an entirely different pleasure. Fact 48. Instead of sweetness, cats are built to savor meat. If a cat cannot taste sugar, what does it taste? Researchers have found that cats are exquisitely tuned to umami, the deep savory flavor of meat and fish. In fact, their umami receptors are subtly rewired compared to ours, making them especially sensitive to particular compounds, and, remarkably, those compounds are found in high amounts in tuna. One scientist put it beautifully: umami may be as important to a cat as sweetness is to us. This is why so many cats seem to lose their minds over fish. They are tasting a flavor their bodies were quietly designed to crave. The next time a cat comes running at the sound of a tin opening, remember, it is answering a call written deep in its genes, and the cat's tongue does more than taste. Fact 49. The tongue of a cat is covered in tiny hooks. If a cat has ever licked your hand, you know the strange, rough, sandpaper feel of its tongue. That texture comes from hundreds of tiny backward-facing spines, called papillae, made of the same tough material as claws. They serve two beautiful purposes. When hunting, they help rasp every scrap of meat from bone, and in daily life, they turn the tongue into a fine comb, letting the cat groom its fur with astonishing thoroughness, spreading oils, removing dirt, smoothing every hair. A cat may spend a large share of its waking life grooming with this remarkable tool. So the cat curled up and washing itself in a patch of sun is running a built-in comb of 1,000 tiny hooks through its coat. A self-cleaning system no human invention has quite matched. And that constant grooming ties into one last, quiet feature of the cat's body. Fact 50. The cat is a beautifully sealed, self-tending machine. Consider how little a cat seems to need. It barely sweats, having few sweat glands beyond its paw pads, and only rarely pants. It conserves heat and water with the efficiency of its desert ancestors, and it tends its own coat through that endless, meticulous grooming. Everything about the body is economical, quiet, self-contained, a creature that asks very little and maintains itself with almost no help. When you watch a cat at rest, using no more energy than it must, keeping itself clean and warm and ready, you are looking at one of evolution's most efficient designs, a small, sealed, self-repairing engine, idling gently in the sun. And yet, for all the wonder of this body, we have only spoken of half the cat. The other half is invisible, the extraordinary senses through which it experiences a world far richer and stranger than our own. To understand how a cat truly meets us, we must step into that hidden world, a world built, above all, for the soft light of dusk. Part 6. Built for dusk. Dusk, the hidden world, the extraordinary senses through which a cat experiences a richer, stranger reality than our own. Fact 51. A cat sees in light so dim, we would call it darkness. Step now into the cat's private world, and the first thing to understand is its eyes. A cat can see in roughly 1/6 of the light a human needs. Where we would find a room black and unreadable, a cat moves with ease. The secret lies in a mirror-like layer behind the retina, called the tapetum lucidum, which bounces incoming light back through the eye a second time, giving the light-sensing cells 2 chances to catch every faint glimmer. It is also why a cat's eyes seem to glow when caught by a light at night. That eerie shine is simply light reflecting back out of the living mirror. Your cat, padding confidently through a dark house while you fumble for a switch, is not being mysterious. It is using an eye designed for the deep twilight of the hunt. And that eye has another remarkable feature, one you can watch change by the hour. Fact 52. The cat's pupil opens and closes like a living aperture. Watch a cat's eyes across a day, and you will see them transform. In dim light, the pupils swell into great round pools, drinking in every photon. In bright light, they narrow to thin vertical slits, sealing the sensitive eye against the glare. This vertical slit is a clever design, allowing an enormous range between wide open and nearly shut, far greater than our round pupils manage, and helping the cat judge distance to its prey. It is a self-adjusting lens, tuned moment by moment to the light. So the shape of a cat's eye at any instant is a quiet readout of its world, wide and dark in the evening calm, drawn to fine blades at noon. But all this mastery of dim light came at a price, one that reveals itself in daylight. Fact 53. In exchange for night vision, the cat gave up sharpness. Nature rarely gives a gift for free. In tuning its eyes so exquisitely for the dark, the cat sacrificed some of its fine detail and daytime sharpness. A cat's visual acuity is considerably lower than ours. Where you might read something clearly at 20 or 30 meters, a cat may need to be just 6 meters away to see it as well. Cats also appear to be somewhat nearsighted, seeing near objects better than distant ones, which suits a hunter that pounces at close range. So the world a cat sees is softer than ours, a little blurred at the edges, but alive with movement and readable in near darkness. It is not a worse world, it is a different one, traded deliberately for the powers that matter most to a twilight hunter. And where the cat's eyes trade away detail, its ears more than make up for it. Fact 54. A cat sees color, but paints with a gentler palette. For a long time, people believed cats saw only in black and white. That is not quite right. Cats do see color, but with fewer of the specialized cells we use, so their palette is muted, tuned mostly to blues and yellowish greens, with reds and greens harder to tell apart. Their world is a little like a soft, faded watercolor compared to our vivid one. Intriguingly, some research even suggests cats may perceive a little ultraviolet light, invisible to us, meaning that in some faint way, a cat might see patterns on the world that our eyes can never catch. It is a lovely thought that the animal beside you may glimpse colors that have no name in any human language, but color was never the cat's true gift. Listen, instead, to what it can hear. Fact 55. A cat hears a whole world above our own. If the cat's eyes are impressive, its ears are extraordinary. Cats can hear sounds far higher in pitch than we can, reaching up into the ultrasonic range, well beyond the ceiling of human hearing, and higher even than a dog. And this is no accident. The tiny squeaks and rustles of mice and other small rodents carry high, thin frequencies, and the cat's ear evolved to catch exactly those secret sounds. So a cat dozing in a quiet room is not in silence at all. It is bathed in a high, shimmering layer of sound we cannot perceive, the ultrasonic chatter of the small living world. When your cat suddenly stares at a blank wall, it may simply be hearing something moving that you never could. And it can do more than hear these sounds. It can pinpoint them. Fact 56. A cat's ears are two swiveling radar dishes. Each of a cat's ears is controlled by a remarkable set of muscles, far more than we have, allowing them to rotate independently, turning toward a sound like a pair of small radar dishes. A cat can point one ear forward and one back, sweeping the room for information. This lets it locate the source of a noise with astonishing precision, within a few centimeters, even from across a room. It is why a sleeping cat's ears will flick and turn, while the rest of it lies perfectly still, tracking the movements of the house without ever opening an eye. That drowsing cat is quietly mapping the world in sound, keeping a gentle watch even in rest. And beyond sight and sound lies a third sense, one that reaches out to touch the world directly. Fact 57. The whiskers are a second pair of eyes made of touch. A cat's whiskers, properly called vibrissae, are not simple hairs. They are thick, deeply rooted, and packed with nerve endings, and they sense the faintest currents of air and the lightest contact. With them, a cat can feel the shape of a gap in the dark and know whether its body will fit, or detect the movement of prey too close to see. When a cat closes in on something right beneath its nose, where its eyes cannot focus, the whiskers can even fan forward into a kind of basket, feeling the prey's exact position. They are, in effect, a way of seeing by touch, reaching out into the dark just beyond the skin. So the whiskers brushing your hand are living instruments of exquisite sensitivity, forever reading a world of air and edges we cannot feel. And there is yet another sense in which the cat utterly surpasses us. Fact 58. A cat can almost taste the air with its nose. A cat's sense of smell is many times keener than ours, its nose lined with far more scent-detecting cells. But cats have something we lack entirely, a special scent organ in the roof of the mouth, sometimes called the Jacobson's organ. When a cat wants to examine a scent deeply, it will open its mouth in a strange, faintly comical grimace, drawing the air up to this hidden organ. It looks almost like disgust, but it is the opposite. It is the cat savoring a smell in a way no human ever could, reading messages left in scent. This is the cat's oldest language, the one its solitary desert ancestors used to speak across distance. Your cat lives immersed in an invisible landscape of smells, layered and meaningful, that we walk through utterly blind. And one particular scent can transform a cat entirely. Fact 59. One humble plant can enchant a cat completely. Most cat owners have seen it. Give a cat some catnip, and it may roll, rub, drool, and tumble in a brief spell of blissful abandon. What causes this is a compound in the plant called nepetalactone, and a cat's nose is so sensitive to it that it can reportedly detect it at less than 1 part per billion, an almost unimaginably faint trace. It is thought the scent may mimic certain natural feline signals, tripping some ancient circuit in the brain. Not every cat responds. The sensitivity appears to be inherited, and only a majority of cats, perhaps 70 to 80%, feel its magic at all. There is something wonderfully harmless in it, this small, legal enchantment, a plant that can turn a dignified hunter into a blissful, rolling kitten for a few minutes before the spell quietly fades. And when you gather all these senses together, you begin to see what a cat truly is. Fact 60. A cat lives in a richer world than we will ever know. Now hold all of it in mind at once, as the cat near you breathes softly in the dark, eyes that turn night into dusk, ears that hear a hidden ultrasonic world and pinpoint it to the centimeter, whiskers that feel the shape of the air, a nose that reads an entire invisible landscape of scent, even a third eyelid, a delicate inner curtain that helps keep the eye safe and moist, so a cat need not blink as often as we do. Every one of these was shaped for the soft, uncertain light of dawn and dusk, the hours of the hunt. The cat is not simply resting in your room. It is resting at the center of a world far larger and stranger than the one you perceive, sensing 100 things you never will. And out of this deep, ancient, solitary sensory world, the cat evolved something almost unbelievable, something no wildcat truly needed, a way to reach across the gulf between species and speak to us. Part 7. The cat that learned to speak. Tone. The conversation. How a once silent desert loner invented a language aimed at the human heart. Fact 61. In the wild, grown cats have almost nothing to say. Here is something that surprises many people. The African wildcat, and indeed most adult cats, are remarkably quiet with one another. Being solitary creatures, they rarely meet, and so they have little need for a spoken language between adults. Most of their few calls belong to kittenhood, or to the tense moments of mating and territory. The endless conversation we associate with cats, the meowing at the door, the chirp of greeting, the insistent call at breakfast, is largely absent among wildcats going about their lives. So the chatty companion in your home did not inherit its talkativeness from the desert. It developed something new, something that appeared only when cats began to live alongside us. And the most famous of all cat sounds turns out to be aimed almost entirely at one listener. Fact 62. The meow is a word invented for humans. This is one of the loveliest discoveries in the science of cats. Adult cats very rarely meow at each other, yet they meow at us constantly. The meow, it seems, is a largely human-directed signal, a sound the domestic cat developed specifically to communicate with people. When a cat meows at you, some researchers suggest it may be treating you a little like its mother, using the pleading calls of kittenhood, now carried into adult life and pointed at the strange, upright caregivers who feed and shelter it. In other words, the cat did not just move into our homes. It reached across the space between our species and built a bridge of sound, a small spoken language whose only purpose is to talk to us. And it turns out that language is unique to each household. Fact 63. Every cat and owner slowly invent a private language. Because the meow is aimed at people rather than other cats, it is unusually flexible, and something charming happens over time. Through a slow process of mutual learning, a cat and its owner tend to develop their own private vocabulary of meows, a set of sounds whose meanings are shaped between them, particular to that one relationship. One cat's insistent breakfast cry, another's soft chirp at the window. These are not fixed words in a shared cat language. They are more like an intimate dialect, built up between two individuals over years of living together. Studies suggest people are often good at reading their own cat's calls, yet quite poor at reading the meows of a cat they do not know. So the little conversations you have with your cat are, in a real sense, yours alone, a language spoken fluently by only two beings on Earth. And this flexibility itself is a mark of domestication. Fact 64. Domestic cats became far more expressive than their wild cousins. When scientists compare the meows of domestic cats with those of wild relatives, they find that house cats have developed a much wider, more varied range of sounds. Living with humans seems to have loosened and enriched the cat's voice, making it more plastic, more expressive, more able to be shaped by each situation and each relationship. There is even evidence that people simply find the meows of domestic cats more pleasant to hear than the harsher calls of wild cats, which hints that, over generations, the cats with the sweeter, more appealing voices may have won a little more of our care. In a gentle way, we may have helped tune the very sound of the cat towards something we enjoy. But of all the sounds a cat makes, one is stranger and deeper than any meow. Fact 65. The purr is a mystery we are only beginning to solve. The purr is one of the most soothing sounds in the animal world, and also one of the most puzzling. It is produced not with the breath going out, like most sounds, but continuously, as the cat breathes both in and out, a steady, low rumble somewhere around 25 to 30 vibrations per second. Scientists believe it is generated by tiny muscles rapidly opening and closing the airway, driven by a curious signal from the brain, a kind of natural rhythm keeper whose full purpose is still not entirely understood. What we do know is that kittens begin to purr when only a few days old, perhaps to tell their mother, in the dark, that all is well. So the purr begins as a message of safety between mother and kitten in the very first days of life. But the purr holds a hidden secret, one that reaches straight into the human brain. Fact 66. Hidden inside some purrs is a cry we cannot ignore. Cats do not only purr in contentment, they sometimes purr when they want something, a meal, attention, and researchers have found that this solicitation purr is subtly different. Woven into its low, comforting rumble is a higher, more urgent frequency, one that has been compared to the cry of a human baby. And here is the quietly clever part. Our species is deeply, instinctively wired to respond to the sound of an infant in need. By hiding a cry inside a purr, the cat may have stumbled upon a signal that slips past our defenses and tugs directly at our nurturing instincts, a sound that is very hard to refuse. When your cat purrs you awake at dawn, some part of that sound may be reaching a place in your brain far older than reason. And remarkably, we answer in kind. Fact 67. We speak to cats the way we speak to babies, and they can tell. The communication runs both ways. When people talk to cats, they naturally shift into a softer, higher, sing-song voice, the same gentle baby talk we use with infants. And studies suggest cats notice. Research has found that cats can distinguish their owner's voice when it is directed at them in that special tone from ordinary speech aimed at another adult, and they respond more when they are being addressed in that loving, high-pitched way, especially by their own person. So a quiet duet has formed between our species. The cat softens its cry to reach our hearts. We soften our voices to reach the cat. It is a small, tender conversation, spoken in tones older than words. And some of the cat's sweetest messages are not sounds at all. Fact 68. A slow blink from a cat is a kind of kiss. If you have ever watched a relaxed, happy cat gazing at you and slowly closing and opening its eyes, you have witnessed something scientists now take seriously. This slow blink appears to be a genuine signal of calm and trust between cats and people, sometimes affectionately called a cat kiss. In careful experiments, when humans slow blinked at cats, the cats were more likely to slow blink back, and even more likely to approach a stranger who had blinked at them first. Narrowing the eyes may be the cat's way of saying, without words, that it feels safe, that it means no harm. So the next time a cat softens its gaze at you across a quiet room, you might slowly close your eyes in return. In the cat's ancient language of the eyes, you will have answered kindly. And other gestures carry the warmth of kittenhood into adult life. Fact 69. When a cat needs, it is remembering being a kitten. Watch a cat push its paws rhythmically into a soft blanket, or into your lap, eyes half closed and content, and you are seeing a piece of infancy that never left. Kittens need at their mother while nursing to help the milk flow, and many cats carry this comforting motion into adulthood, performing it in moments of deep contentment and safety. Likewise, a cat that trots toward you with its tail held straight up is giving a friendly greeting rooted in kittenhood, the same signal a young cat raises to its mother. These are not habits we taught. They are the tender behaviors of a kitten, kept alive in a grown animal that has chosen to treat us as family. In a real sense, a content adult cat relates to us as it once related to its mother, and the depth of that recognition goes further than we long believed. Fact 70. Your cat knows its name and keeps a map of you in its mind. For years, people assumed cats simply ignored us, but research suggests otherwise. Cats can learn to recognize their own name, distinguishing it from other, similar words, even when a stranger is the one speaking it. And in a striking study, cats appeared to form a kind of mental map of their people, seeming surprised when an owner's voice came from a place the owner could not possibly be, as if the cat had been quietly keeping track of where its human was all along. The aloof, indifferent cat, it turns out, may be paying far closer attention than it lets on, holding us in mind even when it seems not to care. And this quiet attentiveness points toward the deepest question of all, not merely whether cats can communicate with us, but whether they truly bond with us, whether the animal asleep in your home actually loves you back. Part 8. The Bond. Feck. The heart of it, the quiet evidence that the cat does not merely tolerate us, It forms a true and tender bond. Fact 71. Cats form attachments to us, much as babies do to their parents. For a long time, people wondered whether cats were truly attached to their humans or simply to the food and warmth we provide. Then researchers borrowed a test long used with human infants and with dogs, watching how an animal behaves with its caregiver in an unfamiliar room, when left alone and when reunited. What they found was striking. Cats, it turns out, show the same basic patterns of attachment that babies and dogs do. A securely attached cat, on its owner's return, seems reassured, then relaxes enough to explore the room again, using the person as a kind of safe anchor. The bond, in other words, appears to be real, and of the same deep family as the bond between a child and a parent, and the numbers held a gentle surprise. Fact 72. Most cats, like most babies, are securely bonded. When researchers sorted cats by their attachment style, they found that roughly 2/3 showed secure attachment to their owners, a proportion remarkably close to what is seen in human infants. This quietly overturns the old stereotype of the cold, indifferent cat. Most cats, it seems, genuinely look to their person as a source of comfort and security, even if they show it in subtler ways than a dog might. And this bond appears to be fairly stable, tending to remain much the same over time. So if you share your home with a cat, the odds are good that, in its own quiet way, it feels safer simply because you are near. The aloofness was, in large part, a story we told ourselves, and the cat has been shaping itself toward us in ways that go beyond behavior, all the way to the shape of its face. Fact 73. Living with us softened the very face of the cat. Here is a discovery both scientific and touching. When researchers compared the faces of domestic cats with those of wildcats, they found that pet cats have evolved subtly shorter noses and gentler, rounder features, a face that drifts toward the proportions of a baby. Scientists call this the baby schema, the set of soft, big-eyed features that instinctively make us want to nurture and protect. And crucially, in tests, people rated the cats with these more kitten-like faces as cuter. In other words, over generations of living with humans, cats may have gently evolved to look more adorable to us, and our helpless fondness for cute faces may have quietly rewarded them for it. The irresistible sweetness of a cat's face is not entirely an accident. It is, in part, a bond written into bone, and this change runs deeper than any single cat's lifetime. Fact 74. That sweetness is inherited, not learned. You might wonder whether a cat's face grows softer simply from years of living in comfort with a loving owner, but the research suggests otherwise. When scientists looked at whether a cat's facial shape changed with the number of years it had spent with its person, they found little connection. The gentler, more kitten-like face does not develop over one cat's lifetime. It appears to be a transgenerational change, passed down through the generations as part of domestication itself. This is a subtle but beautiful point. The cuteness of the modern cat is not a performance put on for its owner. It is an inheritance, slowly shaped across thousands of years of cats and humans choosing one another, and now carried quietly in the genes. The bond has become part of what a cat physically is, and the cat may give something back to us that is more than comfort. Fact 75. The purr may be a form of healing. We return now to the purr, that soft engine of contentment, because it may hold one more secret. Scientists have noticed that cats purr not only when happy, but also when injured, frightened, or giving birth, times of stress rather than joy. This has led to a gentle hypothesis that the purr, with its low frequencies of roughly 25 to 50 vibrations per second, may actually help the body heal. Those frequencies fall within ranges that, in medical studies, have been used to encourage bone growth and tissue repair. Some researchers even note that cats' bones seem to mend unusually well. It remains a hypothesis, not a settled fact, but it raises a wonderful possibility that a cat, curled and purring as it rests, may be quietly tending its own body from within, a built-in medicine that hums. And those same soothing vibrations may reach beyond the cat. Fact 76. A purring cat may be good for us too. Most of us know, without any study, how calming it is to sit with a purring cat in our lap on a quiet evening. And science gently agrees. Stroking a cat and listening to its purr appears to lower stress, and some long-term studies have even suggested that living with a cat may be associated with better heart health, though such findings are complex and cannot promise anything for any one person. Whatever the precise mechanism, the feeling is real and old. There is a reason the purr has been called one of the most comforting sounds in the world. As you lie here in the quiet, you can perhaps imagine that soft, steady rumble and feel your own breathing begin to slow to match it. The bond, it seems, heals in both directions, and it reaches into our emotions in surprising ways. Fact 77. Cats can be quiet keepers of our feelings. For many people, a cat is far more than a pet. It is a calm, non-judgmental presence, a companion who listens to everything and repeats nothing. Researchers who have studied the relationships between cats and their owners find that they take many forms, from light and casual to deeply intertwined, but that for a great many people, the cat serves as a genuine source of emotional support. In a hard moment, the simple weight of a warm cat settling beside you can be a comfort that asks for nothing in return. There is a particular kind of peace in the company of an animal that neither questions nor advises, but simply stays. And cats may be more attuned to our inner weather than they appear. Fact 78. Your cat may be reading your mood. Cats are quietly observant of the humans they live with. There is evidence that cats notice our emotional signals and adjust their behavior depending on whether a familiar person seems calm or upset. Some research suggests cats may offer more of their affectionate rubbing toward an owner who is feeling low, and that, when faced with something strange or uncertain, a cat may glance toward its person, as if checking our reaction to decide how it should feel, a behavior once thought to belong mainly to dogs and young children. So the cat sharing your home is not living in a separate world after all. In its subtle way, it is watching you, sensing the shifts in your mood, and sometimes, it seems, responding with a little more tenderness exactly when you need it. And this attentiveness extends even to understanding what we are trying to tell it. Fact 79. Cats understand us better than their reputation suggests. We often praise dogs for reading human gestures and assume cats simply cannot be bothered. But when scientists actually test them, cats do surprisingly well. In experiments where a person points toward a hidden treat, cats are able to follow the human gesture to find the food, performing nearly as well as dogs at this quiet act of understanding. They can pick up on where our attention is directed and use it. The difference, researchers suggest, is not that cats fail to understand us, but that they are less driven to show off that they do. The cat comprehends more than it lets on, choosing, as ever, when to reveal it. And this brings us to the true nature of the bond between us. Fact 80. The cat loves us, but on its own terms. So, does a cat love you? The honest answer science offers is a gentle yes, but a yes with the cat's own character woven through it. The cat's bond with us appears to be real and deep, yet it is not quite the bond a dog forms. The dog was shaped over tens of thousands of years to look to us, to work for us, to depend on us. The cat came to us later and more freely, and it kept more of itself. Its love is the love of an equal, not a subordinate, a creature that chooses our company rather than one that cannot live without it. Perhaps that is what makes a cat's affection feel so quietly precious. It is freely given by an animal that does not truly need to give it. And that same proud independence points to a deeper truth about the cat, one we have circled all along. For beneath the purring companion on your bed, there still lives something not entirely tame. Part 9. The Half-Wild Guest. The Unfinished Story. Why the cat, alone among our companions, never fully gave up its wild self. Fact 81. The cat is only half tamed, and always has been. Of all the animals that share our lives, the cat holds a strange and special place. Scientists sometimes describe it as only semi-domesticated, an animal poised somewhere between the wild and the truly tame, never having crossed all the way over. The dog, the cow, the sheep, these were reshaped by us, bred and altered until they could scarcely survive without human care. The cat was never so thoroughly changed. It came to us on its own, kept most of what it was, and remains, even now curled on your sofa, an animal with one paw still in the wild. This is not a flaw in the cat's story. It is the very heart of it, and the proof is written in how little we ever bent it to our will. Fact 82. For almost all of our shared history, we never bred cats at all. Here is a remarkable fact. Although cats have lived alongside us for something like 10,000 years, humans only began deliberately breeding them for particular looks very recently, within roughly the last couple of 100 years. For the vast stretch of that long companionship, cats simply bred themselves, choosing their own mates, living semi-independent lives at the edges of our settlements, valued for the hunting they did entirely on their own. We did not shape the cat the way we shaped the dog into 100 forms. We mostly just let it be. And so the cat kept its ancient competence intact, its hunting, its independence, its wild skills, none of it bred away. This light touch left a clear mark deep in the cat's very genes. Fact 83. In its DNA, a house cat is barely different from a wildcat. When scientists sequenced the cat's genome and compared it to that of wildcats, they found something telling. The two are remarkably alike. Only a small number of regions show the fingerprints of domestication, and those, intriguingly, cluster around genes involved in behavior, in fear, in tameness, in how the brain responds to reward. In other words, the main thing domestication changed in the cat was not its body, but its willingness to be near us, its readiness to accept human company instead of fleeing. Everything else, the hunter's body, the sharp senses, the deep instincts, remained essentially the wildcat's. We did not rebuild the cat, we only, very gently, turned down its fear. And the cat carries the signature of that light domestication in another surprising way. Fact 84. Cats hold an unusually rich store of genetic diversity. Because cats were never forced through the intense, narrowing selective breeding that reshaped many domestic animals, they retained an unusually large amount of genetic variety. An average domestic cat carries millions upon millions of small genetic differences. By some measures, many more than a typical human genome contains. A sign of a population that was never squeezed down to a narrow few. This is the genetic echo of a gentle history. No harsh bottleneck, no heavy hand of the breeder for most of the cat's story, just a wide, healthy, self-directed population living alongside us. The cat's very genome remembers its freedom, and that preserved wildness means the journey back is astonishingly short. Fact 85. A house cat is only a few steps from wild. Perhaps the clearest sign of the cat's half-tamed nature is how easily it can return to the wild. Unlike many domestic animals, which would struggle terribly on their own, cats can slip back into a wholly self-sufficient life with remarkable speed. Feral cats, born with little or no human contact, hunt, survive, and raise their kittens entirely without us, living much as their wild ancestors did. The pampered pet asleep in your home carries, just beneath the surface, everything it would need to fend for itself. It has not forgotten the desert. It is simply choosing, for now, the warmth of your company over the cold freedom of the wild. And this is why the cat's many beautiful breeds are such a recent, thin layer over something ancient. Fact 86. The fancy breeds of cats are a very new invention. The elegant Siamese, the fluffy Persian, the sleek modern breeds, all of these are recent creations. The deliberate breeding of cats for particular appearances only really began in the 19th century. At one of the first great cat shows, held in London in 1871, only a small handful of breed types were even recognized. And unlike dog breeds, which were often shaped for tasks, cat breeds have been selected almost entirely for looks, for coat and color and shape, not for behavior. Beneath the surface, a Persian and an alley cat are far more alike than they appear. The dazzling variety of the cat fancy is a delicate decoration laid over an animal that remains, in its bones and its instincts, essentially unchanged from the wild cat of the desert. Some breeds even carry the wild in their blood, quite literally. Fact 87. Some pet cats have a wild cat in their recent family tree. Consider the Bengal cat, with its wild, rosetted coat that looks like a miniature leopard. It is beautiful precisely because it is part wild. The breed was created by crossing domestic cats with a small wild Asian species, the leopard cat, beginning only in the second half of the 20th century. In a creature like the Bengal, the wild is not a distant ancestral memory, but a recent and deliberate ingredient. It is a reminder that the line between the wildcat and the house cat has always been porous, easily crossed in either direction. And this is not the first time a different wildcat brushed against the human world, for our familiar house cat was not the only feline that ever tried to join us. Fact 88. Long ago, another wildcat tried to become a pet and failed. Here is a little-known and rather poignant chapter. Thousands of years ago, in ancient China, a different small wild cat, the leopard cat, began drifting into human farming villages, drawn, like the African wildcat before it, by the mice among the grain. For a time, it lived close to people, a second, independent attempt at the very partnership that made the house cat. But this one did not last. Over the centuries, the leopard cat faded from the villages and from the record, and it was the descendants of the African wildcat, arriving later, that would become the cats of China and the world. It is a quiet reminder that domestication is not inevitable. The door opened for another cat too, and, for reasons we may never fully know, it simply did not walk all the way through. And even today, the boundary between wild and tame remains alive. Fact 89. Wild and domestic cats still quietly blend together. The cat's story is not sealed in the past. It is still being written. In many parts of the world, domestic cats and their wild relatives continue to interbreed where their ranges overlap, their bloodlines mixing at the edges. In some places, this has become a real worry for those trying to protect the last truly wild wildcats, whose distinct identity risks slowly dissolving into the vast population of house cats. The wild ancestor and the tame descendant, separated for 10,000 years, still meet in the hedgerows and quietly exchange their heritage. It means the cat has never fully left the wild behind, nor the wild fully let go of the cat. The two remain, in a sense, one animal, wearing two lives. And that is perhaps the deepest truth of the creature asleep beside you. Fact 90. The cat lives with us as a guest, never a servant. Put all of this together, and a portrait emerges of an animal unlike any other in our care. The cat entered our world by choice, and it has never surrendered its freedom. It kept its wild body, its wild senses, its wild competence, and gave up only its fear of us, and even that, only partly. It stays not because it must, but because it wishes to, an independent creature that has agreed, for now, to share our homes and our lives. When you look at your cat, you are not looking at something you have conquered or remade. You are looking at a small, self-possessed wild thing that has chosen, freely, to live beside you. And there is a rare kind of honor in that, in being selected, night after night, as the one a half-wild creature decides to trust. So let us go back, one last time, to that cat, asleep somewhere near you now, and see, with new eyes, all that its quiet, resting body truly holds. Part 10. The Cat Beside You, TBC. The return, gathering the whole long journey into one small, sleeping body, and letting the night close gently. Fact 91. A falling cat performs a quiet miracle of motion. We have spoken of the cat's flexible spine and its perfect balance. Nowhere do they shine more than in the famous ability of a falling cat to turn in the air and land on its feet. For a long time, this puzzled even physicists, who could not at first explain how a cat, falling without pushing off anything, manages to rotate at all. The answer, worked out in careful detail only in the 20th century, is beautiful. The cat folds and tucks different parts of its body at different moments, spinning its front and back halves in a delicate sequence, using its supple spine to right itself in a graceful mid-air twist. It is not magic. It is exquisite physics, performed in a fraction of a second by an animal that never had to learn it. The same body now lying so still beside you holds that hidden grace, coiled and waiting. And that grace shades into one of the cat's oldest legends, Fact 92. The idea that cats have 9 lives grew from something real. Cultures around the world have long told stories of the cat's uncanny ability to survive. Behind the old saying that a cat has 9 lives lies a kernel of truth. The cat's remarkable toughness, its righting reflex, its balance, its light frame and quick reactions really do help it survive falls and mishaps that would badly harm another animal. Scientists studying cats that had fallen from surprising heights found that many survived, helped, it is thought, by the way a relaxed, spread-out cat can slow its fall through the air, much as a parachute slows a descent. We should hold such stories gently, of course, and keep our own cats safe from real danger. But the legend of the resilient cat was not invented from nothing. It grew from a genuine, quiet marvel of survival. And that same marvel shows even in something as simple as a drink of water. Fact 93. Even the way a cat drinks is a small work of art. You might think there is nothing to learn from a cat lapping water, but when scientists filmed it with high-speed cameras, they found something elegant. A cat does not scoop water like a dog. Instead, it barely touches the surface with the very tip of its tongue, then draws it up so swiftly that a slender column of water rises into the air, pulled upward by its own motion, and the cat closes its mouth around that column at the perfect instant before gravity can pull it back. It performs this delicate balancing act around 4 times a second, keeping its chin dry, drinking with a precision it never has to think about. Even in the smallest, most ordinary moment, the cat moves with a quiet, effortless grace. And most of the time, of course, the cat is doing something even simpler. Fact 94. A cat spends much of its life doing exactly what it is doing now, resting. Cats sleep a great deal, often for the majority of the day, and this too is an inheritance from the hunter. A predator that catches its food in sudden, intense bursts of effort must also rest deeply to conserve its energy between hunts. So the long hours of feline sleep are not laziness. They are the other half of the hunter's life, the stillness that balances the pounce. When you see a cat drowsing away the afternoon in a patch of sun, you are watching an ancient rhythm, the deep rest of an animal built for brief, explosive action. The sleeping cat beside you is simply keeping the oldest schedule of its kind, and in that rest, perhaps, it is quietly mending itself. Fact 95. Even at rest, the cat may be healing. Recall the gentle mystery of the purr and its low, healing frequencies. As a cat lies resting, warm and content, softly purring, it may be doing more than relaxing. It may be quietly maintaining its own bones and tissues, tending its body through the very vibrations of its contentment. There is something deeply peaceful in that thought, that for the cat, rest itself is a kind of repair, that lying still and purring is not idleness, but a gentle, humming form of self-care. As you lie here now, growing heavier and calmer, you might let yourself borrow a little of that feeling, that this stillness, too, is doing you good. That rest is its own quiet medicine. And now let us gather the whole journey into a single breath. Fact 96. The cat beside you contains 60 million years. Think back, slowly, over how far we have come. The small climbing hunter in the ancient forest, the vanished saber-tooths, the wary desert wildcat, alone under the stars, the mice at the granary, and the cat that crept in from the dark, the temples of Egypt, the holds of Roman ships, the long roads and sea lanes of the world, the retractable claws, the twilight eyes, the whiskers, the purr, the meow made only for us. All of it, every chapter, is folded quietly into the single small animal breathing softly near you now. It does not know its own long story. It simply sleeps, but you know it now, and you can see, in that gentle rising and falling, the whole immense journey come to rest. And out of all the places in that vast story, it has chosen this one. Fact 97. Of everywhere it could be, the cat chose here. A cat is a free creature, half wild, fully able to live without us, bound by no need it could not meet alone. And yet, tonight, it has chosen to be here, near you, in the warmth and safety of your home. That is the quiet wonder we have been circling all along. The cat's companionship is not owed, not commanded, not bred into helplessness. It is given, freely, by an animal that could walk out into the dark and survive, and chooses, instead, to stay. To be chosen by a cat is to be chosen by something that did not have to choose at all. And so we come, gently, to the end of the journey, back to where we began. Fact 98. The sleeping cat is a wild thing at perfect peace. Look at it once more, as we first did all those millions of years ago. The soft breathing, the tucked paw, the ears that turn, even now, toward sounds you cannot hear. Everything wild in it, the hunter, the desert survivor, the half-tamed guest, has settled into stillness beside you. It has brought all of that ancient power into your quiet room and laid it down and closed its eyes. There is no safer sign of trust in all the animal world than a wild creature choosing to sleep in your presence. And that, in the end, is what the whole long story of the cat has been leading toward. This small, complete moment of peace between two very different animals who found, across all odds, a way to trust each other. Fact 99. You are the safe place it returned to. For 10,000 years, cats have chosen certain humans to trust, certain warm corners to call home. And tonight, in this small way, you are part of that ancient story. You are the safe harbor a half-wild creature has chosen. Whatever else the day held, whatever weighs on you as you lie here in the dark, there is this. A small, discerning, free-souled animal has looked at the whole wide world and decided that near you is where it wishes to be. Let that be the last thought you carry down into sleep. You are trusted. You are chosen. You are, to one small wild heart, home. Fact 100. And now, like the cat, it is time to rest. We have traveled 60 million years to arrive at this single, quiet moment. There is nothing left to learn tonight, nothing left to solve. The long journey of the cat, from the ancient forests to the foot of your bed, is complete. And the last thing it has to teach us is the simplest of all, how to let go of the day and rest. So breathe out, slowly, one final time. Let the whole story drift away, the deserts, the ships, the temples, the stars. Let there be only the soft weight of your own tiredness, and, somewhere near, the gentle breathing of a small creature at peace. Close your eyes, and let yourself follow the cat down into sleep. Rest now. There is nothing more you need to do tonight. The house is quiet, the day is finished, and somewhere near you, a small animal that carries 60 million years inside it lies sleeping, trusting, at peace, and it is asking nothing of you but to rest as it rests. You do not have to remember any of this. Not the wildcat in the desert, not the ships upon the sea, not a single fact or name. Let it all soften and blur, the way the edges of the room are softening now. The story will keep. It will still be here another night, if ever you cannot sleep and wish to wander back through it. For now, let your breathing slow. Let your body grow heavy and warm. Feel how the bed holds you completely, the way the warm corner holds the cat. There is nowhere you need to be, and nothing you need to carry, only this quiet. Only this rest. You are safe, you are chosen, you are home. Sleep well from all of us here at the Sleepy Scholar. And if you drift off before the very last word, that is exactly as it should be. Good night.